Hey, what's up YouTube? Saf here on Super Saf TV, and in this video I'm going to be comparing the specs of the Canon 70D to the Nikon D7100. Now the 70D has just been announced today and it's aiming at the filmmakers out there, and it also boasts a highly improved autofocus system in video. Now poor autofocus, or the lack of autofocus in video on many DSLRs, has been the biggest downside for DSLR filming, but Canon say that the 70D changes that. The 70D sits in a similar pricing range as the D7100 and will be directly competing with it too. But how different are these two cameras? Well, do hit that thumbs up button and let's find out in this head-to-head spec comparison. Now starting off with megapixels and sensor size, the D7100 has a 24.1 megapixel CMOS sensor, whereas the 70D has a 20.2 megapixel CMOS sensor. Now the sensor size of the D7100 is also slightly larger, and it does not have an optical low pass filter. Now an optical low pass filter usually helps eliminate aliasing distortions, but once that's removed it gives you sharper and more crisp images, which the D7100 is quite unique for. Looking at autofocus, now the general autofocus, the D7100 you've got 51 points AF system and 15 of those are cross type, whereas the 70D has a 19 cross type points altogether, so it has 19 points and all are cross type. So you've got more autofocus points on the D7100 but more cross type autofocus points on the Canon 70D. Now ISO, the D7100 between 100 to 6400 native and extendable to 25,600, the 70D 100 to 12,800 or extendable to 25,600 as well. So you've got the same extendable range but a higher native range of ISO on the 70D. Continue shooting on the 70D 7 frames per second, the D7100 6 frames per second at its standard resolution, but if you do go on to the DX 1.3 times crop, so you're not going to be photographing at full resolution. It's going to be slightly lower. You're going to be roughly about 18 megapixels I believe, and that will give you 7 frames a second. So the Canon 70D does have a higher native frames per second in terms of continuous shooting. In terms of viewfinder coverage, the D7100 does have 100% coverage, whereas the 70D has 98% coverage. So you've got full coverage on the viewfinder on the D7100. Personally, I really prefer having a full coverage 100% on the viewfinder, but the 70D does have 98% here. Now both of these do have a pop-up flash and a max shutter speed of 1/8000th of a second. In terms of storage, the Nikon D7100 has dual SD card slots, so you can use them as a backup or overflow. The 70D only has a single SD card slot, so you've got a little bit limited options here, so you can't do overflow or backup. Looking at the screens now, the D7100 has 3.2 inch screen with a resolution of 1229K, and it's not a swivel out screen, so it is fixed in position. The 70D has a 3-inch 1040K dot resolution screen, and it is a vari-angle screen, so it can be swiveled out. And it's also a touchscreen as well, so a key difference here. Although the D7100 has a larger and a more high resolution screen, it doesn't have the swivel out option, neither does it have a touchscreen. So something quite special here on the 70D. Continuous autofocus in video. Now this is quite interesting. D7100 has the standard Nikon contrast detection AF. Now I've used it quite a few times, but you still get that surge on there, so it's not perfect on the autofocus in video. The 70D has the Dual Pixel CMOS AF technology. Now this is something new, that this is the first Canon camera with this technology, and it enables a fast and smooth autofocus tracking while shooting movies. So this is quite unique, and plus you can touch to focus on different areas as you would do on your smartphone, for instance. Now the examples that Canon have shown do look very impressive, and that's something that's really special about the 70D, this new focusing system. So really looking forward to checking that out, and that looks very impressive. In terms of the resolutions that you can format, the D7100 1080p at 24, 25 and 30 frames a second, 1080i at 50 and 60 frames a second, and 720p at 50 and 60 frames a second as well. The 70D similar here, but you don't have the 1080i option. Now the D7100 is 1080i at so it's interlaced, not progressive, at 50 and 60 frames a second, but this option is available on the D7100, not on the 70D. Max recording length, the D7100 20 minutes or at 720p 29 minutes and 59 seconds. The 70D, you've got 29 minutes and 59 seconds at full 1080p, so again you've got a better advantage here in the length of filming at full HD resolution. Clean uncompressed HDMI output. The D7100 does have a clean HDMI output. Now Nikon offer this on a lot of their DSLRs these days. You can connect a external recorder such as an Atomos Ninja, and you can get clean uncompressed feed of video from the camera into there. Now that's really impressive for a camera of this price as well. If you are looking at pro video, then that's really useful, having that uncompressed video that's going to be feeding out to an external recorder. You can have much higher bit rates. Now the Canon 70D, they've not been clear about this, but as far as I'm aware, it does not have a clean HDMI output. Now in terms of the mic in, both of these have a mic in, but the D7100 also has an headphone out jack, whereas the 70D does not have this. Now I was a bit disappointed about this, because considering that the 70D is aimed at filmmakers, not having that headphone out jack is a bit of a disappointment for me. Wireless transfer, now the 70D has wireless transfer built in, which is absolutely great. The D7100, you can get a wireless mobile adapter, the W1A. That's about 50 or 60 pounds here in the UK, so it's not too expensive, but you do have to buy that additionally. Now what these are going to allow you to do is wirelessly transfer your images to an external device such as a tablet or a smartphone, and it's also going to give you some remote controls over the cameras. However, the 70D does have this built in, so you don't have to go out and buy anything additional. It's all enclosed. That also makes it slightly heavier though, so it's 755 grams, so about 80 grams heavier than the D7100, which is 675 grams. The 7100 is also slightly smaller in terms of width and thickness, but the 70D is slightly smaller in height, so you know the D7100 overall is a little bit more compact than the 70D. Now looking finally at price, the D7100 currently is going for about £850 here in the UK, or roughly about $1,200 in the US. The 70D, if you want to pre-order it right now, you're looking at about £1,080 here in the UK, or $1,200 in the US. So no difference in terms of the dollars in the US. Here in the UK, you've got a bit of a difference in terms of pounds if you do want to go ahead and pre-order it. It's due for a September release. The D7100 is currently available in shops, but the 70D is due for in September. Not specifically sure exactly when, but in September for its release. To summarize, I think both of these are really good DSLRs, no doubt about that. But it comes down to what you prefer. I mean, do you prefer the higher megapixel count, the no optical low pass filter, dual memory card slots and things of the D7100, or do you prefer the swivel out screen that's also a touch screen, and the new autofocus system of the Canon 70D? It may be arguable that the D7100 is better suited for photography, whereas the 70D is better suited for video. I don't know, what do you think? Do drop me a comment below and let me know which do you think is better. Which do you think is better for photography? Which do you think is better for video? Or which do you think is better for both? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, as always, please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And why not subscribe to the channel? I've got plenty more videos coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV. I'll see you next time.